You're listening to The Photography Pod, a show for both working professionals and enthusiast photographers alike. And here's your hosts, Steve Vaughan and Nick Church.
Hello and welcome again to The Photography Pod, a photography podcast for both working professionals and enthusiast photographers alike. My name is Steve Vaughan, and once again I'm joined with my co-host, great photographer, all-round great educator and top bloke, Nick Church. Nick, how you doing, sir?
I love these intros. That's great. Yeah,
I might just reach for the sick ball actually now. Just hang on a second.
Did you see this will be on YouTube, this episode, and the viewers will realise that my video quality is not quite, the lighting's not quite where it normally is. I just didn't have time to set up my Sony camera as I normally do.
That's all right.
So
it looks fine, to be honest.
I come straight from the academy.
You've been running your academy meetup, haven't you?
Yeah, the meetups, the every month meetup that we do just finished about 20 minutes ago. So, and I don't bother setting up for that usually because it's just an informal.
So what's that, on Zoom or something? Or?
It's all built into the platform. So
right.
Creative Academy's got a thing, you just click join and you're in. You know, we have a chat about cameras and photography and loads of other random stuff as well, a bit like this podcast.
I'm only 2 minutes in and we're already randomising. So if it makes you feel better, I caught up with, because I've been doing a lot of travelling recently, which I'll come on to, but I caught up with an episode of the Rest is History podcast, which is probably my favourite podcast. And it was one from, apart from this one, of course, and it was one from about a year ago, and they were obviously recording on Riverside like we do.
Yeah.
And when it cut to Dominic Sandbrook, he was orange. In fact, he was orangey yellow. God knows what was going on with their white balance and stuff, but literally he looked like he'd been tangoed. And the whole video, bear in mind that, you know, they're probably one of the most popular podcasts in the world. The whole video was him looking like he'd been turned into some kind of Donald Trump-esque orange, tango man. God. So if it makes you feel better, mate, your video's fine.
I'm quite, fine. I would say not orange, more like cardigan beige, isn't it? It's all quite beige.
Like an Austin princess from the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gosh, another reference for the younger listener.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got. So, mate, apart from Wittering On, what have you been up to since? Because we haven't done a live show for a couple of weeks, which is my fault.
We haven't. I've been wrapping up the last couple of wedding films from late last year. So that's been good to get those off my plate and doing a load of academy stuff. So there's a couple of we've got this mentorship program called the Hero Mentorship, which is basically is a monthly subscription, and it's somebody that wants to either start their business or grow their business, typically in weddings, but I've got one in another genre as well. And it's all because you're faced with all these things like branding, packages, how do I set my pricing? How do I set packages? What kit do I need? How do I run, all these questions. How do I get myself out there? How do I get bookings? So basically we just do that together. So it's like I did for my own business, years ago, and just do it with other people, which is lovely.
Yeah,
had a few of those meetings recently. So yeah, we have regular catch-ups through the month to track progress and that kind of thing. And yeah, really good. When they get a booking, you feel a bit almost as exciting as getting my own booking. Not quite as much, but
when you put the cross into the box and somebody nods it in, you feel almost as good as if you nodded in yourself. Really.
Yeah. No, it feels like that. It feels like that. It's nice. Yeah,
Not that I've ever done that in my football.
So that's going on. Well, you haven't nodded a cross in.
No, I nodded a few crosses in. We own net actually, but that's another story.
What else might be? We've been selling our house. That's been occupying. You think you read about it being the most stressful thing you ever do, unless apart from
it's a stressful thing. I haven't done it for a long
pretty
time.
Stressful, yeah. But it's fine. It's fine. The main sadness is my studio is likely to be something that gets. Well, obviously I have to leave it because I can't take it with me. But
it's not IKEA flat pack.
No, with me in it. He's like, press a button and he'll say, hello, I'm back again. And
you didn't know you're getting me with the house, did you?
Yeah. You want a reduction? Oh, right. So the plans was to build something equivalent. And I would my ideal thing was, because we can see the light, I mean, move my camera, you can see my lamp there, my light stand, right?
Yeah.
That softbox behind me.
Yeah.
So for the listener, that's just, if I stand up, my head's above that, and that's the ceiling there. So it's pretty low in here. So the idea is to get somewhere bigger, where I can do things like headshots a bit more easy and get some more flattering light patterns and stuff. But the blooming price of these things, I wonder how studio people, because it is quite popular to build a studio for a photographer, but the prices are insane. I mean, this place was 24 grand when I had it built in 2019. Right. The equivalent size, just for it is now, forgetting about the ceiling height, the equivalent size is now 68,000.
Good grief.
From the same company, for the same building.
Would there be an option? I'm just thinking because we were talking off air before we started recording, but my wife Sam now, as part of our exit strategy for the wedding photography business, she's now taking on running a local business hub, which is something she's done in the past, really. Is there not an option to sort of go somewhere instead? I know it's not as convenient. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's because it's 24 grand. You think, well, to have an office space 24/7 and somewhere that's set up for photography, bit of a no-brainer. It's 64 plus if it's going to be a higher place, a higher height place. You got to think, how much revenue is that studio going to create? Bearing in mind all the academy stuff I could do from a cupboard, don't need to do that in a studio. So that is likely to be the option. That the property that the house that we're interested in is going to be pushing our budget to the point that I think any funds for the studio is going to get sidelined until a bit later. So I'll be looking at doing exactly what you said. Just go and find somewhere.
And they certainly thought as well, because I've been in work today at Sam's centre, just rented a desk there for a day, really, because they do a hot desk. And I spent hours in this little, tiny little garage, which, what used to be a garage, little office, really. I can almost touch both ends of it. And it's, I've got lots of problems with my neck and shoulder and stuff at the moment. And just go and work somewhere different and actually having different people around you. Sometimes it's really good. Just to have a different vibe, and chat with somebody over coffee and just the exercise, because it's walkable from here. It's about half an hour walk.
Well, we had one of my Louis, my stepson, who came back from work yesterday and said, "Oh, that road's still closed." And I said, "Which road?" And there'd been the end of our road is a road closed for about 2 weeks. I've got no idea. I haven't been out that far. I've walked around the block and I've run around through the woods, but that's in the other direction. I thought,
hopefully with the clothes on.
I do need to get out. Yeah, but it's dark. It's dark, but it is cold. So yeah. Anyway,
if you're in where do you live again? What's it called?
At Fayland, North
Fayland.
Somerset.
Why not in Nayland? Yeah. If you see something outside your window, close it. I mean, Nick running past it.
Yeah.
Back to the academy stuff. I mean, we are jumping around. We even thought we're 6 minutes in. We haven't even talked about our agenda yet, but. I don't think people fully appreciate that. I didn't until I sort of started digging around. But it's not just how to take photos. It's all about the business, how to run a business. A lot more than just the photography, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the idea behind it for me was that you can learn how to use your camera and get your settings right through YouTube. But those settings won't work for another scenario. So it's teaching processes rather than settings. And, so teach people how to fish, that kind of idea. But the other angle for the photography aspect is about that just knowing how to use your camera doesn't create a good photographer. That's using light and being thoughtful about it and finding mood in your shots and communicating something and all those other things, softer skills that they actually create a difference in your work. And so it's a combination of those two is all the photography side. With the other angle being the business side, where there's so many people that are great photographers moving into a new business, as you have and I have moved into the wedding photography industry, as an example. It's just a blooming minefield of how to navigate around and how what's the vibe like in that industry. If you've worked in been an insurance broker, say, for 15 years, and then you suddenly go to wedding photography, it's a pretty different landscape that you have to know what the words are and what language they speak and that kind of thing, and what your branding needs to be like and all those other things. So that's something that these hero mentorships, I'm finding people are finding those really valuable, and that's just lovely.
I can see that. Because I know when we first started, I was coming on the back of a breakdown in the corporate world, and Sam wanted to leave her job. Ironically, she's gone back into that kind of industry, not the same company. We knew we had to take photos. We knew we could take good photos, and we knew we were good around people. What we did have was massive imposter syndrome. Felt like, what are we doing here? Why are we standing at these people's weddings? And look at all these wonderful photos, and we're never going to be as good as that. And how come they charge that much? And it probably took us 3 years before I never felt that, really. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, I was, well, to an extent. I'm always that kind of like, right, just go in at the deep end. I can do this, and it winds dawn up that I've just got this view of, I think I could do that. I could do that. But you do. That's not to say that I don't get that anxiety all the time of thinking, am I good enough? Where's, what's going to happen next for my business? Am I going to develop in that way? You see other people's photos, you think they're absolutely killing it. You see other photographers and you start to compare yourself. And once you start doing that, it can be a very negative place to get into, because everyone's different. And if you see something different in someone else's work compared with your own, the last thing you can do is to try and move yourself towards that other person, because you want to do what fits your personality. Because with branding, that's the thing that people are going to buy into. If what you're saying how you sound, how you talk, your opinions, your sense of humor. If that's shown in your creative output, couples are going to that's going to resonate with the right couples. If you're trying to be someone you're not, but it took me a long time to get that, and I was sort of aspiring to think, how do I edit my photo to look like that photographer's? Or
we did that for years. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it took us probably 3 or 4 years before we decided that was our look and that was our style, really, and our work. Right. Funny enough, just while we're talking, I've got a Studio Ninjas running in the background. I've just had a £1,600 payment pop in, so that's quite nice.
Excellent.
So that's always pleasing.
Beers on you then.
That happens.
It's your round.
Well, it is part of the business process. But I think, we need to talk photography in a minute. But I think what most people forget when they become or decide to become photographers, it's a working professional photographers, that is, it is 80% not photography. It's 80% running a business, all the stuff that, I know you teach in the academy, SEO and marketing and networking and all that stuff. And if that stuff doesn't interest you, then don't try and become a professional photographer. Absolutely.
And it's what one of the talk I did at the Society's convention in January touched on that point, that you've got to think, is this something you want to do? If you want to move from being either a hobbyist photographer with a proper job into being a full-time photographer, if you're doing that because you want to take more photos, that's probably not the right reason to do it.
Absolutely.
Because that's probably one thing that you're going to be doing less of. If you're a hobbyist, you can spend every hour that you're putting into photography just taking photos. But if you're a business, you don't have that time. You don't have the luxury, and you're lucky if you get time to take photos that aren't a client looking at you waiting for you to take them. So it's all those other stuff. And it's something to just make sure that is something that you want to do before you start. And I think
it's super important, and I think that's one of the reasons that we were successful. I've been successful with our business, albeit now we're phasing it out as regular listeners know, as part of my semi-retirement planning to focus on my sales training. But because I got a business background and a sales background, I started from the basis of how much do we need to earn to pay the bills, pay the mortgage, and have a holiday. Okay, so what does that mean in terms of how many weddings do we do? Could we do that many a year? Would that kill us, or do we need to charge more? And it all falls into place from that, really, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. Funny enough, I did in the academy for members. There's a stream of education content. I did an article just today on that point about how do you set your pricing when you, because we're not used to it really. But when you're an employee at another company, your hourly rate is everything. And we tend to take that forward into our business and think, well, how much do I charge for that family session? If it's a family shoot, you think it will take me 2 hours. So, maybe 2 hours to edit. And then you add up that, multiply by whatever hourly rate you want to earn, and think, well, that's what the price is. But it's forgetting about everything else, the insurance, the Adobe Photoshop, the fact your cameras are getting worn out and you've got electricity that you're using and laptops and all these other things that your company used to pay for you, suddenly you have to take out of it. And it's really hard to sort of think, to try to separate costs, that hourly rate away from your pricing, and actually to come at it the other way. You work out all of your costs across a year, and then just give yourself a salary, and that's just one of the costs you have to maintain. And
that's right.
All that amount has to be paid for by the shoots you like to get. Now, how many shoots you're going to get as a photography business is more difficult to predict, but they have to all pay that figure. Otherwise, your business hasn't succeeded. And coming at it the hourly rate way can very often, and I've seen it happen with people that I've worked with coaching, result in people actually working not just for free, they're actually paying. They're ending up making a loss.
Yeah, exactly. They're paying the business for the privilege of being a photographer. Yeah,
that's right.
One of the first things I ever did when we first started doing this, and I still do it to this day, is I'd roll it out at least 18 months. It's a cash flow predictor. So I put in all the things we have to pay monthly, and there are too many, and I keep trying to have a call some of these, but things like Studio Ninja, insurance, Lightroom, all the things that you pay monthly. Then from Studio Ninja, I can work out when we're due to get paid, because it's usually a month before the wedding. Factor all those in, then factor in what we want to pay ourselves, or when we want to take dividends out. And then I know pretty much to the nearest pound how much money we're going to have in September. Then occasionally somebody pays you early, which is great, but it throws the calculation out. But it's that important to have that, because, so many great businesses can be very profitable, but run out of money.
Yeah, and so many business, you can be flat out and thinking, well, you must be doing really well because you're really busy, and that is not necessarily the case, is it? Because these fixed costs, and that is the battle a little bit with I want to choose my words carefully. I don't want to disparage anyone that's a part-time, but people that are doing it as a side hustle don't often have the same. It's very difficult if you're doing a side hustle where you've got a full-time job and you may be doing 5 weddings a year. You literally cannot afford to have insurance and everything else in place because you're not doing enough work to offset it. Yeah. So this is why one of the challenges with a full-time photographer is those people that are doing it, the weekend warrior type, excuse me, photographers, because they are cutting corners. And I know, because I've done it myself, that before I went full time, that's where everyone starts. And it's a bit of an unfair situation. But then from a client's point of view, whether it's a bride and groom or a corporate person that's booking headshots, they don't care, do they? They're not really, unless they happen to have a policy where they want to check your public liability insurance, they're never going to know. Goodness me, what was that? The dog's kicked off.
It sounds like somebody's just strangled our dog in the background. Yeah, that would be a nice thing. But no, I don't think so. I think it's just, I think Sam's just stood up. So sorry if you're the RSPB. I didn't mean that. Honest.
No, there's no literal dog strangling. There isn't.
No, I think it's just that somebody's come to the front door anyway. So anyway, we've started talking about weddings and things. So I think let's sort of pursue that and things we said we were going to talk about today. And that was content creation and whether the rise of the content creator is fundamentally changing the wedding business, because we've got probably half a dozen weddings this year where we know there's going to be content creators, as in official content creators working there.
So should we clarify for people that aren't wedding savvy?
That's a good idea.
So a content creator is somebody that's not necessarily, but typically using an iPhone, maybe on a little stabilized gimbal, and they're taking more behind the scenes type footage. And it's very much a reelable, a TikTokable little clips that can be very quickly turned around. So by the next day, the bride or groom or couple have got a whole selection of social media friendly clips that they can just upload. So it started out often from a lot of makeup artists and hairdressers started doing it because they've got ring lights. They always have good iPhones anyway because they want to get photos of their work when the bride's been made up. So quite reasonably, and I would do exactly the same and think, well, I've got this kit. I'm finished at 12. The ceremony's at 1. Why don't I just offer to hang around a bit more and get some more behind the scenes type footage? And it's called ripples because anyone new to the industry, which these people are when they start, you need to know how to operate alongside other creatives that have been employed on the day. So just things like, and everyone's got an example of this that's worked with a content creator, where I had an example where I had a video set up. We had 4 cameras and the bride was going to walk down the stairs with her father, and the content creator came behind the bride with her phone. She wanted to get a nice shot, which was a great shot. I'd love to have that shot, but she was in every angle. And that was on me because I should have realized that she was going to be doing that, and I should have made it clear at the start. I didn't at that point that she was going to continue taking content. And had I known that, I should have then said, right, let's just make sure we're not getting each other's shots because that's going to look a bit crap for both of us. So I think those sorts of issues are the same that would be faced by somebody new to the industry coming on and not quite working out how.
Yeah, because that's the kind of conversation we routinely have with videographers. Let's make sure we work well with each other, and experienced photographers always have that conversation, don't they?
Yeah. Now, where it seems to be getting, sorry, my microphone leads having a bit of a meltdown. Right, where it seems to be going a bit more, causing a bit more friction in the industry is firstly around the video, so the video aspect. So what a lot of brides are thinking now that they're becoming aware that this is now a thing. So 2 years ago, most couples wouldn't know that content creation was a thing. Now they very much do. And that's up there with a list of videographer, photographer, content creator, along with DJ, fireworks, and all these other things that they could choose to have. A lot of couples are making a decision about, or facing a decision, shall we get a wedding film, which might cost anywhere from £1,200 to £2,000, depending on all sorts of factors, or a content creator. And a content creator is very much, they're not shooting a log profile, they're not creating a film, they're not creating a non-linear story to music or anything like that. It's just basically clips, which are then stitched together in iMovie or something quite quick and deliver the next day. So
or even in the Instagram or TikTok software.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Put it into edits and it's off. So that there isn't that thing, which means they can be charging £300 or £400 rather than £2,000. Now, when you're a creative like we are and you're in the industry, you can clearly see the difference between those two end products. They're totally different. And that's always been my stance, is that I don't think it's a problem because they're offering two different things. It's like a Ford Fiesta exists, but so does a Lamborghini, and so does a taxi and an Uber and all those things. But the problem comes from when you have couples that are not familiar with photography, which most couples aren't. I wouldn't be if I wasn't in the industry. Then they look quite similar. They sound quite similar. They sound like they're clips of your day put together into a film. And so you're looking one that costs £300, one that costs £2,000.
I think there's a few things to unpick there, aren't there? Really, I mean, I think first of all, who are we to say what bride and groom should have? It's their choice. It's they should have whatever product or offering that they should have. And I see some quite disparaging like Facebook comments. Oh, content creators, why would they do it? Well, it's their choice if they want to have that. It's up to them,
absolutely.
Really. I think from a technology point of view, they are relying very much on the intelligence of the phone, to manage the light and everything else, really, and those. I'm going to talk about technology a bit, but they're only getting better and better and better, really, aren't they?
Well, everyone's done this test when they first got their iPhone, whatever it was, iPhone 10 or something. You go and take a sunset photo, and you think, I don't reckon I could take that with my camera. I'd have to spend so much time editing it. And the same goes with video, that in poor light, an iPhone is going to do a really good job, and you'd have to work pretty hard to dig out some
with all the AI
like
software and everything going on, really. And again, perhaps just waving the flag for content creators, they're not here on the pod, really. One of the things I hear when people say, because we do basically videography as well. Well, we're not going to have a video because my friend or my brother had one and they never watched it once, so they never watched it again. Whereas something that's on their phone, on TikTok and Instagram, and all their mates are giving them likes and thumbs up and sharing it, you get that dopamine hit, don't you, from everybody saying, "Oh, you looked amazing, you look fantastic, you look awesome," and
and you get the content when you're. There's another part of my talks that I've done previously is when you've got in a wedding. On a couple's wedding days, when their excitement is at its peak. Now, the problem is that after that, their excitement wanes a bit until you deliver their photos or video. And if that's 2 months later, then you're hoping for a little bit of a lift on that excitement graph. But often it's nowhere near as exciting as the excitement levels isn't right where it was on their wedding day. And if they're getting content the next day, it's like right in the sweet spot of when they want it. They want to share it.
It's the same reason I try and get previews to them next day if I can, for exactly the same reason.
Exactly.
Because we know they'll share them and they'll tag us and collaborate, and we get the social media juice on the back of that as well, really. So what are the downsides to it then, really?
Well, it's
clearly
this
doesn't quality,
erosion. Now, this erosion of videography is gone on for a while, and as exactly as you said, and I'm also not one of these people that there are people, for example, I saw one today that commented in my Facebook group that's why they've always had in their contract they will not work with a content creator. If there's a content creator, they're out of there.
Wow.
And I don't see that as a very reasonable stance, particularly. I can see why you would feel like that if you've had a bad experience, like I have. But I think that taught me that I need to make sure I know if there's a content creator, and then I can have the right conversations at the right time.
Exactly.
But it's this erosion. And sure, I think what will happen is that brides and grooms, and the argument is, of course, that if there is a couple, so let's say two brides are going to say, we're going to go for content creator rather than a wedding film. If that's their choice, that's their choice. If they don't understand the difference between the two, that's also still their choice to do that.
It is.
So it probably isn't the right market for somebody that's selling a $2,000 wedding film for that person.
Exactly.
And so that protects you a little bit. But what's happening is that couples that do see the difference are still seeing there's an option at £300. Even though they know that's less and they know the difference. And so I think videographers are increasingly finding it hard to justify a much higher price because there is another option there. When that option was previously not having a video at all, then it's easy to say, because you can just say you're going to have this forever. It's a film, you're going to watch it and all that stuff. A lot of the same things can be said from a content creator as well. The content they produce, you can watch that forever as well. Yeah. So what's happening recently, the last month, is I've started seeing in Facebook groups, and again, this clearly isn't my market, people saying, I'm not sure whether to have a content creator or a photographer. So we're starting to see that that's now transgressed into photography as well, that people are comparing the two, and presumably those content creators saying, well, I'll take photos throughout the day on my phone. And again, who's to say they shouldn't do that? Yeah. Because if I decided to go to, it was a thing in the 10 years ago when it occasionally there'd be a photographer that used their iPhone because it was a fun, wacky thing to do. But that's the same thing. You'd be producing the same thing. So
we're saying like me sticking my Osmo Action on top of Osmo Pocket on top of a camera and doing a little bit of video as I go along. It's a thing I can do rather than necessarily something I'd go out and market, really.
But seeing those differences between them, and obviously I think anyone listening is going to be able to see the difference between an iPhone photo and a good professional wedding photo that's captured a moment and a bit of emotion. And the same goes for a video. If you look at a well-constructed wedding film, that's been produced to music, and you've got the cuts in the right place, and the energy changes, and there's emotional hits, and it goes back and it refers back. You've got nice sort of LJ cuts and all these things that really produce an enjoyable experience. And it's not just basically moving photos stitched together. And there's clearly a difference. Do we educate our couples about that, or do we just have to leave it to see where it falls? And I think we'll have to wait and see. But sure, if there are some couples thinking that a 300 quid content creator, and I'm saying 300 content creator in no way to disparage what they're doing at all.
No, it's a product, it's an offering, isn't it? It's like a 700 quid photo booth. Yeah, quite.
And if that is now an option for photography, then I think we've got a similar challenge in front of us to justify why we can charge so much more money.
I think just come back down to.
It will also, just to finish, sorry, Steve.
Yeah, go on.
Just before I forget, I think because you mentioned Osmo, and a lot of us are thinking about putting little action cameras on top of our cameras, or to the side, or holding them to get this BTS type content. Now, maybe we'll be meeting somewhere in the middle. That I think a lot of companies that do video and photo, like I do, will start going down that horrific hybrid route and do more of those, because I think that's a way that you can produce a wedding film at a lot cheaper price than hiring a separate person to do it.
I do put the Osmo on top of my camera now, purely for, well, I do use it sometimes for the films we make, but also purely for, for nice little surprises for couples and things like that, really.
I heard of a wedding last year where there was a photographer, videographer, a content creator. The photographer had their own content creator to get BTS shots of them, behind the scenes shots of them. So you had this crew of people. That's
like a big event.
A massive entourage.
Now, of course, one of the pods we did the last few months, we told you about our negative experience about a venue that was trying to do content creation but didn't know what they were doing, and told a couple they were going to do it and completely got in our way and everything else. So this is a different thing I think we're talking about here. But, because I'm a salesman and I'm a businessman first and foremost. You said it earlier, that's not my customer. I think, what is the ideal customer? The ideal customer for you and for us, I guess, is, somebody that has a certain budget, has a certain appreciation of the quality of photography. In our case, quite often an older couple who probably aren't on TikTok. If they're on Instagram, they won't be doing reels and things, really. Second time around, we'll have a good time, got a bit of money. One of the best weddings we've ever did really was a couple where they were second time around, and we did two. They had two weddings, and we did both of them. It was a really nice earner. So they're not going to be looking for content creation in a matter of their friends doing a bit of stuff on their phone as they go along. Whereas, Gen Z, we use a phrase I hate, perhaps slightly lower budget, perhaps. That's not our market. That's not a place that we play in anyway. That's not my ideal customer. I'm old enough to be their granddad.
Yeah.
So it's not a place I want to fish, really. So
you're old enough to be my granddad, for God's sake.
Thank you, mate.
No, you're not. You're not.
Not quite even old to be your dad.
Nowhere near. I think slightly older, but more handsome brother is how I.
Hang on, I'm just going to get my Zimmer frame. Hang on a second. Hang on. I'm not quite that bloody old. I've got a complete lost my thought now. Yeah, so I think who are we to say thou shalt not have that bride and groom? It's your choice, isn't it? Really?
Absolutely. And it's interesting, isn't it? It a change to the industry that happens every now and again, that these things come along, and it will change things. And I mean, video, the migration of the video guy being a camera, big shoulder mounted VHS thing where we were starting to use mirrorless cameras, and they use those for ages, and now basically we're all the same skill set. That's been another change that's happened in the last sort of 10-15 years. So
we had a videographer a couple of years ago who turned up with not the VHS thing, but pretty much a shoulder mount, almost like the thing you do for outside news broadcast gathering. He was feeding me one of them. He looked like a right beast of a thing to carry around.
It's funny how slow some suppliers are to move with the times. But there was a chap I used to bump into quite often at weddings a few years ago, that even in, I think, 2019, 2020, he was there with the big shoulder mounted thing, and he would charge him extra if they wanted HD. Otherwise, it was 720p. I think, how are you getting away with that? And he's rushed off his feet, absolutely rushed off his feet with bookings. So just goes to show.
Yeah, it'd be 4K now, of course, if you want 4K, but or 8K even, dare I say. So
yeah, I think 4K. I mean, 4K again is a bit like the old drone, isn't it? It used to be that you could charge a bit extra for drone, but now it's like the only reason to have a drone is if you haven't got one, you're probably not likely to get many bookings. So it's a
exactly
ubiquitous thing to have.
Which takes us on, I guess, to a kind of associated topic, really, which we we're out there shooting with state-of-the-art Sony cameras, and there are new things coming out. I'm sure this year there's rumours there's going to be an A7 R6, which is going to be 80 megapixels possibly. There's probably new version of the A7 S3, so there'll be an S4, which would be like a 16 megapixel high sensitivity video.
The current one's 12, right?
12, yeah.
So it would support 8K.
Yeah, exactly. But also, photographing or videoing in a coal mine, So
you don't see enough videos taken in coal mines, do you? I think
you don't know. That's one of black cats in coal mines. Yeah,
that's one of the biggest problems with the closure of all the mines. Of course, is that there's so many fewer videos now of coal mines.
As a Staffordshire lad born and bred on the kind of Chase coalfield, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I went down a coal pit as a kid. It's one of the things I vowed never ever to do ever again in my life. One of the things I had to do as a school kid was go to the local pit to see what your fate would be if you didn't do well at school. And that
it was absolutely brutal. I read a book recently about
terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so dangerous. And we went to one. I went to one with the kids. My kids are little. There's one in Wales called Big Pit.
Yeah,
they thought really hard, but they turn the lights off, and you've never experienced sheer darkness with those lights off. But yeah, it was when you think, man.
Well, you live on the edge of the coalfield as well. Yeah, Somerset coalfield, isn't there? Yeah,
that's right. The Mendips, all the Mendips was lots of coal mines and tin and zinc and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Stanham and all that stuff. Yeah, as a chemist. Yeah. But anyway, this isn't the coal pod. This is the photography pod. Where was I going with all this? Yeah. So we're thinking about technology. So we've got increasing resolution, autofocus systems getting more and more advanced. At what point do we reach the point of diminishing returns where it's not really making a difference? I think we're there already. Yeah.
I don't use any AI. I don't tend to use any AI focusing apart from eye autofocus. So that's completely contradicting what I've just said. But I wouldn't use any object tracking. I pretty much have the same setup I've always had on my cameras.
Yeah. I do use eye focus, I must admit. Yeah.
So I do use that. That was a change from mirrorless. But other than that, it's back button focus, spot focus area, and that's the setup that I teach in the Photographer Unleashed online course, because it's just the most reliable one. And if the argument of selecting a kid running at some sports, and then you highlight them on the screen and let it track it, is great until it's not. And then when it's not, it's too late because you lost control of it and you have to change modes and stuff. So the
A7 III, which is what now again over 10 years old, wasn't it really, that you could store people's faces on that and it would remember who they were and it would prioritize them really. So I'm struggling to think right now so we've got 4 Sony cameras here, but the most modern being the A7C2 actually. The newest is the A1, but as a design it's probably the A7C2, which does have AI focusing. It's what I'm talking to you on now. I can't think of anything that I could say I wish it did this. I really, wouldn't it be great if you could do this? But
is that because we haven't ever thought about it? Is that because it's something that we don't know what we don't know, do we? Like before eye autofocus was a thing, were people thinking with their D750s, when they bought a brand new D750 when it came out, Nikon DSLR, they're thinking, God, I wish this was a way that this could just focus on the eye and just lock onto the eye. We probably didn't know that was a possibility until it was. And then that one feature, a friend of the pod, Geraint, had an A7 R3, one of the first ones that I'd seen. I saw it do that. I thought, right, that's it. I'm changing systems. That was like an absolute game changer.
That's why we changed to Sony, actually, yeah.
So maybe there is other stuff that we just don't know it could exist at the moment. But it does seem, when you look at my autofocus as an example, I don't remember looking through my old Nikon D750 pictures and saying, God, I missed focus on the eye all the time. I never did miss focus on the eye. It's just a lot easier now. So the images are the same. So it's not substantively changing the photos we're taking. It's just making it a bit easier.
I'm all for that. I'm all for technology making things easier on the day, particularly as I get older and reactions aren't quite as quick as they were. But I mean, everybody throw their hands up in horror, and God knows how many rants were written on blogs and Reddit and things about the A7 V not having open gate video. Well, really, is it such a big deal and a serious stopper? We are getting into the stage. It's like the car industry, I'm again reminding everybody that I'm old. Going back to the 80s, there were Skodas, East German pre-Berlin Wall Skodas and Ladas and Yugos, and there were dire cars, that pumped out tons of smoke and stuff. Now you can't buy a bad car, can you? Really?
No.
And it's the same with, I watch the camera reviews, I watch the Petapixel guys and all those guys because I'm a nerd. I like watching stuff. Give any of us now, any of the cameras are available on the market today, and we can go photograph a wedding with it tomorrow.
Yeah, because they wouldn't exist otherwise, would they?
No, exactly.
Which wouldn't exist. I was thinking it's funny about cars because do you remember like in the 80s, that was every comedian's would have a skit about Lada or Skoda, wouldn't they? And that's interesting because you think, how did they sell such terrible cars? It also makes me think about, wasn't comedy quite poor? That was like considered quite amusing to just keep saying about how hilarious a type of car was.
There were some good comedians. I mean, Jasper Carrott, Billy Connolly, all those kind of guys. What was the Welsh guy?
Max Boyce.
Yeah. There were some good ones, yeah. And Dave Allen, of course, who would never be allowed now with his irreverent comments and swearing and sitting there with a glass of whiskey
with
and
his glass of whiskey.
Yeah. Them were the days.
Although a lot of the problems he faced later on in his career was sort of anti-Catholicism.
Yeah.
Sort of, things from the church. But have cameras plateaued, do you think then? Or is it just if with our current knowledge of what cameras can do, they seem to have. I'll tell you one thing that I could imagine it being something that comes up is when you think about what exposure mode to use, you could use aperture priority, but that fails you when it's low light because it just lets shutter speed drop too low. You could use shutter priority. No one uses that. You could use
Sport photographers do.
Only if they're a bit crap. You could use manual mode with auto ISO, but that only works in poor light. Doesn't work in good light because you can't ramp. It can't ramp the shutter speed up. So maybe there is an automatic mode that will take all of these things to account and do the right thing.
So a really smart program mode.
Yeah. So you tell it what shutters, but I suppose all it's going to be doing is then just rocking the ISO back and forth.
That's what it does already.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam shoots in program mode most of the time. I use program mode quite often because it's we let the camera do the work really, where necessary. But
if it could judge the scene and think, right, what movement is in this photo? Like if you come inside in let's say the new AI aperture priority where you set F5 because you want a few people in shot, F6 or 7, you want a few people in shot inside, but it's quite dark. They're moving because some of them's juggling because he's like wacky and all that. So he's juggling. And the camera can then pick up, I can't just go down to the one over the focal length on this particular shot because there's an idiot juggling there. So I'm going to have to, go up to sort of 400th a second. If it could do that in real time.
Changing aperture. Yeah.
If it could do that, then maybe, I don't think program modes can do that right now.
No, they can't. No. So what you're kind of saying is really the technology stuff, the sensor technology. Sony dominate that, don't they? The lens technology. Yes, there'll be nuances. There'll be more stack sensors and things probably, but the real advances will come in software. Really,
yeah, I think so because fundamentally cameras can still from 1910 or whenever they can still change the aperture, the shutter speed.
Yeah.
The ISO now, rather than changing film. You can decide what to focus on. That's the only 4 things you can do on any camera. So it's about all the technology goes into about how those 4 things happen and how you control them and how they interact. Yeah. But fundamentally, they're quite simple things. So I can't think there's anything that's going to create better photo.
It will be interesting to see what will come out this year. So I read the best-selling camera in Japan right now is the A7C II.
Oh, is it?
Interestingly, yeah. And yet I can say in many ways that's a flawed design. It's a cribbled design. In the end, by the way, the conversation we had on the last pod was about when I went to my trips, what camera I was going to take. In the end, I took Sam's X106 because I just wanted something small in the end. Yeah. So I went to Dealey Plaza, by the way. I went to see where JFK was shot. Fascinating.
Who did you?
Absolutely fascinating. It's a whole museum on the 6th floor book depository where Lee Harvey Oswald, or did he, shot Kennedy, or did he? Yeah, it was really, really interesting, actually. Yeah,
I bet.
Place I always wanted to go to.
Yeah. That's such an iconic scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it still looks the same? You can still
well, I wasn't there when it was happened, of course. I'm not quite that old, but no.
Was it 1965?
63. I was 8 months old. Yeah. It looks like it on the videos and on the not the video on the was it Zapruder film, wasn't it? The cines that they did. Yeah. So, but I've always been fascinated in all the conspiracy theories. So I stood on the grassy knoll. I went behind the picket fence, and you'd have to say if you were going to shoot a president, not that I'm planning to, in case Mr. Trump's listening. That's where I would go, rather than go to the sixth floor of a book depository with a piece of proverbial Italian gun.
Yeah,
we're digressing wildly, but it was interesting to walk around and have a look. I also went to the Dallas Cowboy Stadium as well, which is the second biggest indoor stadium in the world.
God, that's quite a sight, isn't it?
It's
hard to get your head around how huge.
There's 2 massive arches that hold it up. They're a third of a mile from one end to the other. It's a third of a mile. Yeah.
God,
England are playing there in the World Cup because they play on artificial pitch, so I had to dig it all up and start laying grass down. So
Yeah.
Dallas wouldn't be somewhere I'd book on a holiday trip, but I was there on business. It was interesting to walk around for a day. No, I can't think of anything. I'm not sitting here, on the edge of my seat, eagerly anticipating Sony's new product launches this year. We'll see what happens when it comes along. The only thing I might be tempted by, as part of planning what I want to use when I stop doing weddings, is the Fujifilm X Pro 4 allegedly is going to come out. So I always like the X Pro rather than the XT. You've got an XT5, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I always like the X Pro version, which is the rangefinder style one. So it's like the X100 with interchangeable lenses.
Okay. Yeah, I know, yeah.
And the current one is 3, and it's quite old now. And it has this really weird screen where you have to fold the screen out to be able to read it.
You can't flip it around the other way at all?
No.
Right.
But on the back, you've just got like a very small screen which emulates the film simulation.
The film clip.
Like you used to put the film box in the camera.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
So to read the display, you have to fold it out. So if you're doing street photography, it's great because you can hold it at your waist. But if you wanted to do something up here, you've got to hold it like this or whatever. So,
I think that Half X does that as well, doesn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that little...
So the X Pro 4 would be interesting when it does finally come out. Allegedly, it's going to come out this year. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not a product manager for a camera brand.
Yeah, because getting that wrong, choosing the wrong set of functionality to implement, just kill a brand, couldn't it? And I think that's why there are, like, the brands like Fujifilm are a little bit behind Sony, for example, because they probably aren't in the market to be a front runner. They want to see what other people are doing and doing things in their own way, but getting that functionality to be consistent. Like I'm sure the XT6 that comes out, I'm sure that would be much more rapid in terms of any of the slightly slow focusing and things it would have.
It's a brand with incredible brand loyalty, and I've still got a bit of it still myself, really. I guess the difference is Sony's a mega corporation as well, but for Fujifilm, the camera brand bit is a tiny part of their business. It's probably, I don't know, less than 5% of what they do, because Fujifilm's an enormous chemical company, biopharmaceutical company, and all that. The imaging part, I think, is partly because Japanese companies are very conscious of their history and their roots and everything else, really. But I remember Andreas Georgiades saying the number of people actually working in Japan designing cameras, it's not that many.
Yeah,
it's tens, it's not hundreds.
I suppose a bit like Olympus in all of the other imaging, industrial imaging and stuff that they do. The cameras was fairly small.
Medical devices is their big business. The hospital analyzers. When you go and have your bloods done, often it's Olympus Instruments doing it. Yeah.
Right.
So, interesting. So, good. Okay. What else are we going to talk about? That's the two of the big topics we're going to cover today.
What focusing mode do you use? We talked about focusing a little bit earlier. What's your setup?
Do you mean AFC, AFS, or?
Yeah. Are you switching between AFC and AFS, or you
never use AFS on a Sony? There's no need to. Yeah, never.
You're just moving the focus point to wherever you want it. So you're never holding recomposing. So you're not using back button focus.
No, never. I've stopped doing that ever since the days of Sony. I used to do that with Fuji. So my standard setup is I have not the wider screen, but the second box. And I point the camera in the vague direction of the person I want to focus on, and then I've got my AF button programmed to eye focus. So I basically just point it roughly at the bride's over there, bang, locks onto the eye immediately, and then I just hold it.
Yeah.
Until I stop taking pictures of her, really, or him, really. So and then I'll position her in the box where I want it to be, in terms of obviously not necessarily dead center frame, but focus and recompose. I've stopped doing that really ever since we went to Sony, really, unless I was doing landscape or something. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I do. I mean, it's similar with the eye autofocus. So I have that on one of the rear buttons. Don't know which one. Just my thumb goes to it. AF. There's one AF. There's the whole.
There's an AE lock button as well.
Yeah. One of those. So then that will just lock on. So it's off unless I'm pressing and holding that, in which case it's locking onto the eye. The other one I always set to spot, the smallest spot, and just use a really traditional back button focus. And I just for me, I just find that because all of the other modes. There are scenarios where it's problematic. Like you've got, let's say you're a sports photographer and you've got a load of runners coming past you or motorbikes coming past you. You want to focus on the bit they're going to be at, and then you want to let go, and you want it and then as they come through, you want to just hit high speed burst. Whereas if you're doing anything like trying to position the frame or click on the screen or, do anything at that point, you've missed it. And so, I think probably sports shooters are probably using back button focus almost entirely for that reason, I imagine. Landscape photographers use it because you can then find your hyperfocal distance, set it on there.
Correct.
Lock, let go of the back button, wait for half an hour, have a cup of tea, wait for the perfect sunrise and just take a load of shots. And you know that focus isn't changing every time.
Or the rain, more like in this country, but still.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I think, and I don't do much of those things, but I do like a system where I can just use one setup for everything. So everything's in AFC, and I just decide if I want AFS type behavior by either letting go of the back button or keeping it held down.
Yeah, I can say that.
AFC.
Yeah.
So you could be taking a picture of a bouquet at a wedding. I know we did a lot of wedding chat today, but bouquet at a wedding, and holding back button, focus on that, let go, recompose, it's like AFS type behavior. Then suddenly some flower girls start running towards me. Hold it down again, point at them, and they're in focus. And
yeah.
Or in that case, I might just hold the eye autofocus button.
So the only variety I would do to what I've just said is if obviously like a bride and groom coming, or a bride and the father coming down the aisle. So then I will go to a small point
to make sure you actually
just to make sure you got them, and then
especially if there's any distractions in the front, like their partner, bride or groom, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I've got it set so it will track. Although I've never needed it to track, but I've got it set so it will track, and I just bang off 8 frames a second or something like that.
Yeah.
But AFS on Sony's is lousy, really. It's wobbles back and forth quite a bit, really.
Yeah, it hunts a little bit.
Yeah.
Which all contrast detect, systems do. So if you are, now I don't know, I think it depends on model, whether that because one advantage, certainly on DSLR, of using, even if you've got like a D850 or Canon equivalent, where you've got almost the whole screen. Something with a really large number of focus points that you can select. The center one is still usually better. It's usually that cross type that's going to be better. So there are advantages there as well of having back button focus where you can just hold and recompose with that front thing. I definitely seem to find on my A7 IVs, definitely on my A7 III, and I think on my A7 IV as well, that if I'm using a focus point on the edge, it's not as accurate. If it's hunting, as soon as I just press it, jump to the middle, locks on straight away.
I think the phase detect points are more central, aren't they, in the contrast tends.
Yeah.
I think the AFS wobble isn't because it's contrast, it's just the way single point autofocus works. It goes back and forward, and this confirms the sort of in between the going back and going forward is where it needs to focus, really.
Yeah, but that is contrast. I mean, it's just very in the focus, isn't it? And it has to go, it only knows it's at its sharpest if it goes beyond it and then comes back a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, it's exactly it.
So I suppose when I say hunting, that is hunting. Hunting, I suppose, more usually
it's just how it works.
It continues to do that forever, and that's just which I've had. I was filming a funeral once, a live streaming a funeral, and realised I'd set it on. I thought I'll just set this on face, the pre-focus face detect, where I focus on the person that's doing the readings. I thought I don't want to get focus exactly accurate, so I'll just stick it on F8, F9 or something. And it was just hunting throughout the whole thing, because it was just, there wasn't enough contrast. Everything looked sharp to the camera, so it was just moving it backwards, forwards all the time. Luckily, I was recording in 4K, delivered it 1080p. It was fine. That hunting was, because it was such a small aperture, the depth field was so big that the hunting, luckily the lens, it wouldn't have been my GM, because that would have the focus, what's it called? Where it zooms a bit when it's focusing.
A focus assist.
No, there's a term. It's like a negative thing, like you
mean on the lens or the camera?
On the lens. So when you focus, it also zooms a little bit as well. That it's
focus breathing.
Yes. Yeah. So it's late.
Yeah.
Focus breathing. Yeah. So luckily it didn't exhibit that. Otherwise I'd have been screwed. But as it was, because it didn't, that whatever lens that was didn't have focus breathing. The fact it was hunting a little bit. Once rendered down to 1080p, you couldn't see it. Thank goodness.
Back to what do we need in a camera bit? That's something I quite like using, and I started using when I was doing some filming last year. Have you used the focus mapping thing on the Sony?
No.
So where you can have a focus peaking, where you get on manual focus, you get like a shimmering when it's in focus. With the newer Sonys, you have focus mapping, so you basically get coloured blocks all over the screen. And I forget which one it is, but if you get blue blocks, it's out of focus in the foreground, and if you get orange blocks, it's out of focus in the near ground. And when you get clarity, it's when it's in focus. And it works really, really well. And that's something which I think only Sony's do. Focus mapping, I think it's called.
Because I use focus peaking.
Yeah, I do that a lot, yeah.
But you can guarantee, I'd be like the world's worst cinematic focus puller, because I go the wrong way. You'd have thought it'd be 50-50.
Me too.
I'd go the wrong way every time. But if you've got a visual guide about which way you need to go, that'd be quite...
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for.
handy.
Yeah. I think it's called focus. It looks like you got like a game of Jenga going on your screen, basically, with all these blocks. Yeah, but when it's clear, you've got the focus.
Oh, right.
nailed,
Okay.
really.
I might look at that.
there is room for new technology, certainly. I think we've just about done really in terms of the list.
I think we have. We've rabbited on for 54 minutes.
Yeah, and counting. Yeah.
Which, given that there's been no guest that we've actually been able to interview that's given us useful content, interesting content, this has been an absolute success. As a triumph.
It has.
It'd be in the Guardians, an absolute triumph. 5 stars.
Absolute triumph.
That'd be
Well, the reason we haven't had a guest, to be fair, is that we've both been super busy. I've been travelling the world, and I continue to do so with my sales trading business now. So I'm in Amsterdam next week for a couple of days. No time for photography, unfortunately. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm in Singapore, and I will have some time then for a bit of walk around. Second time I've been there. There's a great Chinatown and everything in Singapore. But yes, if you are listening to us thinking, I'd love to be a guest on the show, then yes, we'd love to hear from you, really. You don't have to be a mega superstar photographer. You could be somebody who's just starting off your journey. We'd love to hear from somebody who's just having a go at being a wedding photographer or just an enthusiast photographer who's just passionate about what they do, really. You don't have to be. So
we've got coming up somebody of that caliber exactly, which is one of my, somebody that I'm mentoring, who is a really lovely Brazilian guy called Matt. He's actually shooting a wedding in Brazil next week. And I thought that'd be really interesting to hear his experience, how he got on his first wedding shoot.
That'd be super.
Especially somewhere where it's like a 3-day wedding like they do over there. So that'd be fascinating. And if people are interested in what the benefits might be of mentoring, if you're at that party business, whether it's me or anyone else, then he'd probably be quite good.
That's a great idea. I look forward to hearing from them, certainly. Okay. Well, Nick, I'll let you go back and work out your mortgage calculations.
Thanks for that.
And start flat packing your studio.
Start deflating myself in my studio within it. Vacuum pack myself up,
I've got a quiet day tomorrow. I've got a 4 a.m. start on Monday because I've got to run a training course for somebody in Singapore as prelude for the classroom stuff. So I'm going to have a quiet weekend this weekend as well. Same. No weddings for us this weekend.
We're on holiday next week. So we'll at 4:00 on Monday morning, we will be in Heathrow Airport. Yeah. No, it is Heathrow. Yeah, not Gatwick.
Where you going? Oh, wow.
It's going to Antigua. Okay. Yeah, got a really good value deal. So I think the hotel probably be quite crap. Dawn's got family out there, so go and visit them.
Absolutely.
Who cares?
Yeah, sounds great. Well, have a great time. So I guess we'll be back in a couple of weeks in that case.
Yes. Yeah.
So, thank you for listening, dear listener. Don't forget to give us a review on Apple or Spotify. We are trying to catch up with the YouTube channels as well, so bear with us. We'll get more and more of the video out onto YouTube as well. Whatever you are photographing this weekend, if you're in the UK, don't forget to take your raincoat and your brolly. But wherever you are photographing this weekend, have fun doing so. We'll talk to you again soon.